The most credible news in the morning. The news at 7 on Nationwide 90 FM.
Coming up in the news at 7 for this morning, Friday, October 23, 2020, Met Service says Jamaicans should brace for more unstable weather until Monday. Supreme Court dismisses attempt by Indecom to force the DPP to file murder and other charges against 2 cops over a controversial fatal shooting. Health and Wellness Minister Dr. Christopher Tufton warns nursing homes to implement adequate COVID-19 measures or be shut down as one nursing home faces a second outbreak. And in regional and international news, a key group in organizing protests against police brutality that has gripped Nigeria in the last 2 weeks is urging people to stay at home. The details up next.
If it's news, it's got to be Nationwide 90 FM.
With your news, I'm Kalila Reynolds. The Meteorological Service of Jamaica says a broad low-pressure system across the Western Caribbean is causing unstable weather across Jamaica. The Met Service says the system is expected to linger in the Western Caribbean through to Sunday. It says to expect unstable conditions to persist across Jamaica during this time. The Met Service says to expect cloudy conditions with periods of showers and thunderstorms across the island, especially southern parishes. Over the weekend, expect periods of showers and thunderstorms across most parishes during the day. And on Monday, the forecast is for widely scattered afternoon showers and isolated thunderstorms across western and north central parishes. The Supreme Court has dismissed an attempt by the Independent Commission of Investigations, Indecom, to force Director of Public Prosecutions Paula Llewellyn to file murder and other charges against 2 cops over a controversial fatal shooting. The ruling relates to the 2016 shooting death of Jamar Walford during a police operation in Denham Town, West Kingston. Among the evidence Indecom said it uncovered during investigations was the pistol police reportedly took from Walford. According to Indecom, this was the same firearm recovered by the police from a previous operation led by Deputy Superintendent Alfred MacDonald on April 28, 2016. MacDonald was the senior officer who led the operation in which Walford was killed. However, after reviewing Indecom's evidence, the DPP ignored a recommendation by the police oversight body that MacDonald be charged with murder and misconduct in a public office. Indecom argued that the DPP erred in law and the decision not to prosecute the constabulary force members was irrational. However, the office of the DPP argued that while its legal opinions are subject to review by the court, this is to be done in certain circumstances. It stated the circumstances of the case filed by Indecom did not fall into that category. In refusing Indecom's application, Justice Simone Wolfe-Rees indicated that she saw no evidence to support the view that the DPP's decision was unlawful or irrational. Health and Wellness Minister Dr. Christopher Tufton is warning operators of nursing homes to implement adequate COVID-19 measures or face closure. He gave the warning during the Health and Wellness Ministry's COVID-19 Conversations Weekly Forum last evening. His comments come as the ministry has identified several cases of COVID-19 at the state-run Golden Age home in Vineyard Town. Initially, after 72 tests, 43 staff and residents tested positive for COVID-19. Minister Tufton says there are now 69 positive cases at the facility.
Of the results received today, October 22nd, 2020, for samples taken at the Golden Age home, yesterday, 26 were positive. So we have had 26 new positives, which brings the total number of positives to 69. And the breakdown of that 69 are as follows: 19 staff members, 40 residents, and 10, I'm told, to be determined. So 10 is being sorted out to be determined whether it's a staff or a resident or otherwise. So 19 staff and 40 residents, 10 to be determined, total of 69 positives of the 564 tested.
He says the ministry has also been conducting tests in the recently quarantined communities of Waterford in St. Catherine and Whitfield Town in St. Andrew. Minister Tufton says there were 26 positive cases among the 236 samples tested in Whitfield Town, with 30 samples pending, and 15 positives among the 63 samples tested in Waterford. Minister Tufton says there are several nursing homes in the Waterford and the general Portmore area.
And given the challenges we uncovered in the case of one or two of these facilities, we took the opportunity to deal with all, to test all. There are a number of these facilities that are not up to par in terms of the infection prevention control measures.
It's why Minister Tufton issued this warning to operators of nursing homes.
Where necessary, we will take action because we do have the authority to shut these facilities down. There is a dilemma though, because when you shut down, the question is where do you place? But if the situation is intolerable and the residents are at risks, then we will have no option but so to do and find alternative arrangements. And I want to issue a caution, a warning to operators of nursing homes. Please follow the protocol.
Dr. Christopher Tufton, Health and Wellness Minister, addressing the ministry's COVID-19 Conversations Weekly Forum last evening. In the meantime, the ministry is also treating with another COVID-19 outbreak at the Jerusalem branch of the Mustard Seed Communities in St. Catherine, following 36 cases at one of its facilities. He says 16 staff members have tested positive.
The St. Catherine Health Department started surveillance at the Mustard Seed community after receiving a positive result for a staff member. Based on the physical, medical, and psychological challenges of the persons under their care, this is at the Mustard Seed community, a decision was made to test all staff, initially to determine if there was a need to test further. Of the 111 staff tested, 16 persons were positive.
Dr. Tufton says all the samples taken from persons at the facility have been tested, and he says 20 residents of the Mustard Seed communities have tested positive for COVID-19.
The health department has now completed testing at Mustard Seed. The 111 staff and 148 residents were tested, in addition to the 16 staff members who have returned a positive result. 20 residents also tested positive. All staff have been placed on home quarantine and the necessary contact tracing done. The residents have been isolated on site and 3 staff assigned to care for them. 3 areas have been identified on site for appropriate isolation, quarantine, isolation of asymptomatic positives, quarantining of symptomatic negatives, and isolation of symptomatic positives.
The health minister says assistance is being given to the Mustard Seed Communities facility.
Appropriate personal protective equipment are being provided by the health department as necessary, and 1 medical officer will monitor the home with daily updates from management. So this has been happening over the past week.
Dr. Christopher Tufton, Health and Wellness Minister. An amazing story of humanitarianism. A teacher at the Union Gardens Infant School, Tanika McCoy Phipps, has been setting schoolwork on community blackboards for students who are not engaged in virtual classes. Mrs. McCoy Phipps says she began the initiative after the COVID-19 pandemic caused the closure of schools. With personal funds, she and a small team, which includes her husband and daughters, have been painting blackboards on walls in inner-city communities in the corporate area and providing lessons for many students who are not able to access classes virtually. She says no child should be left behind. More in this report from Stevie Ann Simmons.
In a video on social media produced by the United Nations Children's Fund, UNICEF, Mrs. McCoy Phipps explained what gave birth to her public-spirited idea.
A lot of kids, some riding bicycles, and I was like, wow, and this was school time. I know that if it wasn't the COVID, they would have been in class. So as a teacher, I took responsibility. I felt responsible because we're not able to be with them. They're out there doing that. And I felt sad. Then the thought came to paint blackboards in this community. Put up the work.
Mrs. McCoy-Phipps says the Blackboard project was an essential initiative to engage students who do not participate in virtual classes. She told Nationwide News that she used a whistle to promote the presence of the community blackboards.
I said, I'm just going to put up a community blackboard into as many community as possible so that these children can have access to some work, because we can't have them like that. Mm-hmm. At first, when I've started, because many persons did not know and would not be aware of the blackboard being posted up, I had to go around with my whistle, and I had to blow the whistle in all these communities. And persons would look out, and I would say, come, and, call them with my hands and tell them what I was about. And I had some worksheets at that time, and I would give them the worksheets and tell them to look for me at a particular time.
Mrs. McCoy-Phipps and her team have so far painted 9 blackboards in 7 inner-city communities.
The first blackboard was painted in the community of Tavares Garden. And from there, we're on to now around 9 of them, about 7 communities, and now we're having to go out every morning to all these different communities, taking bus when we have the fear, and when we don't, we walk it, and we go into different places and things right at the blackboards and so forth. We try to do it very early so that the children will be able to start work at a good time in the morning when the brain will be really active and up and going.
The infant school teacher is calling on the Ministry of Education to provide assistance for her to sustain the project. Persons can also donate to Mrs. McCoy-Phipps' Scotiabank account at the Hagley Park branch to assist the cause.
The account number is Scotia, so it's 853479. Not yet. I'm just lifting my faith because I know that they're all for their children, for the nation's children. So, this I like. I'm believing that maybe I'll soon to hear from them and get some sort of an assistance.
Meanwhile, after the interview on Thursday's edition of Nationwide at 5 with Cliff Hughes and Tyrone Reid, State Minister in the Education Ministry, Robert Morgan, tweeted that the ministry is pledging its support and commitment to the project. Stevie Ann Simmons for Nationwide News.
Turning now to international news, a group that has been key in organizing protests against police brutality that has gripped Nigeria in the last 2 weeks has urged people to stay at home. The Feminist Coalition also advised people to follow any curfews that may be in place in their states. The streets of Nigeria's biggest city, Lagos, the center of the protests, remained quiet last evening, but there is an atmosphere of fear. Lagos and other parts of Nigeria have seen buildings torched, shopping centers looted, and prisons attacked since Tuesday night's shooting of protesters in the city. Rights group Amnesty International said security forces killed at least 12 people, although Nigeria's army has denied its involvement. The protests, which began on October 7 with mostly young people demanding the scrapping of a notorious police unit, the Special Anti-Robbery Squad, SARS. And U.S. President Donald Trump and his White House challenger Joe Biden clashed over COVID and race in their final live TV debate. The two rivals presented contrasting views about the ongoing COVID-19 outbreak in the United States.
There was a spike in Florida, and it's now gone. There was a very big spike in Texas. It's now gone. There was a very big spike in Arizona. It's now gone. And there are some spikes and surges in other places. They will soon be gone.
We're about to go into a dark winter. And he has no clear plan, and there's no prospect that there's going to be a vaccine available for the majority of the American people before the middle of next year.
I can tell you from personal experience that I was in the hospital. I had it. And I got better, and I will tell you that I had something that they gave me, a therapeutic, I guess they would call it. Some people could say it was a cure.
Come on. There's not another serious scientist in the world who thinks it's going to be over soon.
Joe Biden and Donald Trump during last evening's presidential debate. That's your news at 7. I'm Kalila Reynolds.